Robert Shelton, what about that legislative action that might affect the funds for the university? What's your response to that?
Yeah, I'll come back to the very factual presentation you made in your opening remarks. Namely, this was an action by a committee in one body of the legislature, and we see this actually as elevating the discussion from a reading assignment of a new book to one that deals with the question of the ability of a university to offer courses. If you look at the text, it references any course, to offer courses in a whole variety of religious topics unless all religions are discussed. So if this bill, which was passed by a committee in the House, were to be interpreted in its broadest sense, we would find that a number of our classes would be off limits. I think what you're seeing here is a situation of the university's ability to present controversial ideas. UNC-Chapel Hill has a long history of presenting controversial ideas, of having free and open discussions on those ideas, and allowing people to make up their own minds, and we will continue to hold that position.
What about that, Mr. Glover? What about the idea of free and open discussion of controversial ideas?
Free and open discussion, if the university wanted to seek such a thing, they would include a book in their summer reading program such as Unveiling Islam, written by two former Muslims who themselves were forced to attend youth jihad meetings when they were children living in Columbus, Ohio. That type of book would shed more light on what took place on September the 11th, and it would really give the students the opportunity to see the whole picture about Islam. You have to wonder what the university is afraid of in giving them the entire picture of what Muslims around the world believe.
Robert Shelton, beyond the question of funds from the state legislature, what's at stake here in this argument and for the university?
Well, as I said earlier, I think the argument has been elevated from a summer reading program with a 2-hour discussion that introduces a topic to individuals to one that now gets at the heart of the university's ability to hear all sides of an issue. There have been examples of this at UNC-Chapel Hill in the past, as there have been around the country, and in every instance universities have prevailed in being a location and a place where ideas can be discussed. I do think Mr. Glover makes a very good point in that this particular book is not the end-all and be-all in studying the Quran. We've never intended it to be. There are, I'm sure, hundreds, maybe thousands of books on that topic, and maybe by approaching the Quran, some of the students will be motivated to read more.
Well, apparently Mr. Glover's objection is in part the selective quality of the book. Why not require the students to read the whole Quran?
Well, again, I think you have to take it in the context. This is not a course in the Quran or in any other religious studies. It is a limited summer reading program, 2-hour discussion, and I think we have succeeded beyond our wildest dreams, actually, in making this a topic of great interest to people in our current situation.
Mr. Glover, should the whole Quran be required reading, or is the requirement the issue for you as opposed to an elective course?
I'd feel better about the entire Quran being read rather than this book, which paints a rosy picture and leaves out the things that precipitated 9/11. The provost mentions something being elevated. If anything's been elevated, it's the concern of many taxpayers that they have no control over what takes place at a state university that seems to be bent on indoctrination towards students that vast majority of North Carolinians disagree with. Many of the lawmakers, including 3 that I spoke with last night, have said that they've gotten a plethora of emails, phone calls, and letters from constituents who are very upset that the university is doing something that so many people disagree with.
Robert Shelton, have you heard from the students about this? What do they say?
You know, the feedback has been very interesting, and I'm sure feedback, no matter who's receiving it, can be highly selective. Early on, I was receiving a few letters, but primarily from folks outside the state. And I would say the feedback was coming at about a 3-to-1 ratio in favor and commending the selection and the approach. since recent articles in the media, in particular the Washington Post, I've received a larger number of emails and correspondence, and they literally have all been complimentary. But I think that's not the point here. I think we can each go out and generate our own sample of response. I think the real key here is that all the feedback we've had from students has been one of interest. We have told those students and their parents that we expect them to come and participate in discussion, but if they do not, there's no academic penalty for this. That's been the theme of the summer reading program for all 4 years. For example, last year when I led a discussion on the book, A Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down, I think probably 10% of my class hadn't read it, but they stayed, and I think they profited from the discussion.
All right, we'll have to stay tuned and see what the court says. Gentlemen, thank you both very much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.